Jane Eyre is full of birds and bird imagery, from reading Bewick's History of British Birds while at Gateshead, to being referred to using different dove imagery at Thornfield by Mr. Rochester, which makes birds an important symbol in the novel. Let's start with Bewick's History of British Birds, shall we? The book itself doesn't appear to be anything special in the grand scheme of things. However, Bewick's 2 volumes of the History of British Birds, the first being land birds and the second waterfowl, popularized a type of illustration, the vignette, which seems to have inspired some of Jane's artwork. The pictures in the book showed birds in a variety of human and natural scenes. One of Jane's paintings featured a ship, and on its mast a cormorant, which is a large dark bird that is used to symbolize greed, but we'll come back to that later. Now to actual birds. There are lots of birds in Jane Eyre. She's reading a bird book just before she is sent to the Red Room, which is a pivotal point in her life. She opens a window to feed a bird as Mr. Brocklehurst arrives, and soon she is sent off to Lowood. At Lowood, Jane feeds a bird part of her breakfast, showing not only the poor nutrition of the place, but her own giving spirit, since she will give up part of her meals to the younger girls there. Birds, of course, denotate flight, so it's only natural that Jane interacts with birds before she takes off and goes to a new place. Jane herself is related to birds as well. Mr. Rochester calls her bird, dove, linnet, and skylark, and describes her as trapped and struggling, like a wild, frantic bird that is running its own plumage in its desperation. Many liken Jane to a bird in a cage while she is at Thornfield. Jane wonders what the birds think of her. While she is happy at Thornfield, she relates their singing to her own joyful state, and while she is escaping, she compares the birds' faithfulness to one another with her abandonment of Mr. Rochester. Like a bird, she flies the place. Back to the cormorant. Some scholars relate this bird to Mr. Rochester because it is strong and brooding. Bewick calls the cormorant a greedy, dark, voracious, alert, and careful bird. This seems to have Mr. Rochester written all over it, especially since in Jane's painting there is a pure bracelet in the bird's beak, which is much like Jane herself trapped by Mr. Rochester. The analysis of the cormorant being a self-portrait, however, is much more interesting. Jane has 2 areas of voraciousness and hunger, her passion for Mr. Rochester, and her desire to surpass the limits assigned to her gender and class. In this case, the bracelet represents Mr. Rochester's gifts. Bewick also says that cormorants are very easy to catch with a net or a noose, such as a bridal veil or a string of pearls. Jane also desires liberty and freedom, which birds innately have. They are able to fly above the problems of the world, if you will. Finally, Mr. Rochester as an eagle. While they are ravenous birds, dark and strong. While the physical description fits, others do not, until Jane returns and they are seen as equals. The male eagle is able to easily provide for himself and his mate, while Mr. Rochester has always had the money to do so. The emotional support was not there until his pride had been wounded, when he was blinded. So, there you have it. Jane Eyre is full of bird brains, and there is plenty of evidence to back it up. Thank you.